Everyone, thank you for joining us for the monthly meeting of the Louisville Metro Light Pollution Control Board. I ask for your patience as we get everyone in place and ready to begin. I will call the meeting to order in just a few minutes. Mr. Purdon and Mrs. King, are we ready to begin the monthly meeting?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. I will call the regular meeting of the Louisville Metro Light Pollution Control Board to order. We are conducting the monthly meeting today by video teleconference. The first thing on the agenda is recognize if we have a quorum for our board members. I will conduct a roll call of board members that are present on this teleconference. When I call your name, please say here. Steve Sullivan.
Here.
Dr. Colbert.
Here.
Thank you. Dr. May. Candace White.
Here.
Marissa Neal.
Here.
And Dr. Daniel Gorse.
Here.
Thank you. Mrs. Hampton, do we have any introductions this morning?
Oswald are in the boardroom TV display reconnects.
Oh.
So this is the technical difficulty I'm not familiar with. I just try unplugging and replugging. You know, all else fails.
For the courts.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your patience. Well, good morning, Chairman Hilton and board
Thank you.
members. It is my pleasure to introduce to you this morning two new agency staff members. The first is Ms. Lindsay Anderson. She is our new community compliance officer.
Okay.
And our second is Melanie Brown. Melanie is our new compliance enforcement coordinator, and she's also a returning compliance officer. She joined us in February of 2020 and 21 and left us in 2022. So she moved up into the district's work. I'm really grateful to have both her and Lindsay joining us. I'm also happy to report that I will have more introductions next month. So we'll wait till that. I'm just going to go ahead and get it out there. Right now, there are nice students who are finishing up their college degrees at several of the universities around town. We still have 2 open vacancies for compliance officers. If you know of anyone who is mission dedicated, looking for a great job and a great place to work, we invite them to send us their application.
Thank you.
Shameless plug.
Welcome.
Welcome. Employees of the Air Pollution Control Board. Thank you. Ms. Hamilton, public recognitions this morning?
No, this one.
Okay. The board, you have, you see the public hearing and regular meeting minutes that was held on October 18th, 2023. Are there any changes to the minutes for the public hearing first? The regular meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes of the public hearing and regular meeting minutes are stand approved. Thank you. Now we're at the public comment. Ms. King, has anyone registered to make a comment this morning?
Yes, sir, several.
Okay,
Read the directions.
okay. When your name is called, please approach the podium and state your name. Comments should be kept to no more than 3 minutes. Mrs. Steiner has a time card to help. She will give you notice when there is 1 minute left, and then again when your time has finished.
First, we have Jill Harmer.
Okay, I don't want any new gas powered
plants. They are a waste. And also, hopefully, the EPA can have more restrictions on it in the future. So we're just throwing away our taxpayer money. And we want to comply with the Metro Council and with the mayor wants to decrease gas emissions. The Metro Council Resolution R102-19 and the mayor's executive order. Because we can't get these standards that we citizens and the mayor and city council want if we do this gas. And there are so many health reasons that I'm going to say them till last, so if my time runs out, it will just cut them off. But we have problems also with leaks and fires that have happened in other gas plants. And we also have the cost of health, like the plants are responsible for 2,800 premature deaths in Europe. And emissions are responsible, and a study which if you need to know the study, I will tell you later. 17% of all lung cancer and 33% of all heart disease and 33% of all chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases are attributed to gas. Trying not to waste our money on. Rubber Town will also have higher estimated rates of heart disease. Look, and then there's also the emissions. Okay, the emissions are something that produce other effects combining with other chemicals. And so these things result in low birth weight, post-neonatal mortality, children and the elderly are also more susceptible. There are financial and ecological costs. In the construction, the plants take water from lakes and rivers and use that water, and then they have mercury in the fish, and then discharge polluted water, warmer water than the species are accustomed to, and it hurts the lives of the species.
I think you have 1 minute left. I'll walk you through.
No, okay.
Thank you.
For listening.
Thank you.
If I may, we use a speaker system here. It's this little owl on the table. It's very sensitive. So if you're able and can join us here at the podium so that we're sure it can pick up your voices from where you are.
Elwood Sturtevant.
Good morning. I'm Elwood Sturtevant, a retired minister here in Louisville. When I watched the last hearing about Mill Creek's plant, I was struck that LG&E apparently takes these proceedings so much for granted that it didn't feel the need to have anyone speak on its behalf, despite being the county's #1 polluter. I suppose such complacency isn't surprising. LG&E seems to figure that the current system of winners and losers is fine. It gets to be a winner with almost guaranteed profits, while others who can't escape the harmful consequences of its operations are left to be, to one degree or another, losers. And so I think it's important to give voice to the fact that one of the reasons agencies like this exist is to notice injustice, not to merely perform calculations to see a formula, but to also notice when something's going wrong, to put it right. For example, the 2010 study quantified the effects attributable just to Mill Creek's fine particle pollution: 110 heart attacks, 1,200 asthma attacks, and 75 deaths per year. 10 years later, LG&E was sued for failure to operate emission controls, and probably more than 75 deaths later, LG&E entered into a consent decree that, among other things, called for it to reduce particulate matter emissions in historically underserved communities. That is, this agency tried to do better for those people who are too often left to suffer hunger. To some degree, all of us are expected to be losers to things like mercury pollution and the current climate crisis. But the reality is that the poor and the powerless are most impacted by LG&E's shifting its costs to the public. I contend that you are here to represent the broad public interest, which includes environmental justice. And so you must be here to ask, what if we did things differently, so that the burdens of energy production don't fall most heavily on those who are least able to defend themselves? Isn't it worth asking, given that the neighbors of Mill Creek have suffered disproportionately since 1972,
I think your
must
time is
they be locked into
1 minute.
Must they be locked into another 40 years of fossil fuel harm? Shouldn't LG&E at least have to consider real demand side management and cleaner sources for its fuel, or planned for things like using clean hydrogen? Dr. King told us the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I think we are all called to help to do the work of that bending. And I invite this board to pause its decision and let LG&E know that we see what it is doing, and that we needed to do better at being a public utility that takes into account the whole public, those who have been overlooked in the past. Thank you for whatever you can do to bring justice into all that you consider.
Thank you, sir.
Roxanne Sturdivant?
Yeah, my thing is Sturdivant, I used to do it, it's been one of those. I've heard it argued that a gas plant will certainly be less polluting than a coal plant in terms of NOx emissions and particulate matter. While that might be true in the short run, I think there are other considerations. First is that emissions from the existing coal plants can be further reduced by implementing the EPA Good Neighbor control standards. This would have a cost attached to it, but would give some immediate relief. And there are many additional environmental costs incurred when burning natural gas to create electricity, besides the day-to-day emissions. First of these is the disruption of tearing down the old plant and building a new one. There's a high environmental cost for the manufacture of steel, cement, and equipment for the new gas plant. These costs are likely to diminish as new steel and cement technologies come online in later years. Secondly, we know that natural gas is composed mostly of methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that leaks into the atmosphere from the wellhead to the point of combustion. Because of this, PPL claim that gas generation is cleaner than coal is questionable. Recent aerial measurement of U.S. oil and gas production basins finds wide-ranging natural gas leaks rates up to 66%. Gas systems that leak over 4.7% of their methane, considering a longer time frame of 20 years, are on par with the methane released from coal mines. When damage from both sulfur dioxide and methane are considered, it is estimated that a gas system leakage rate as low as 0.2% is on par with coal. We have a recent example of natural gas leakage that is local to us. You may know that LG&E recently asked to close the Doe Run natural gas storage facility because 20% of the methane stored there was and unrecoverable, 20%, and that was since 2005 that this has been leaking. So in addition to this, and I'm just going to hurry it up, that we've got many new technologies coming online. My husband and I have this hobby of watching YouTube videos about battery, new battery technology, new solar technology, new things that are just on the horizon, about to become commercial. And I just hope that this board will take all of these changes into consideration when they're making such an impactful decision. And hope that you can help us find a pathway to the greener, cleaner future for Louisville.
Thank you for your comments.
We'll just remind everyone to speak up as clearly as possible for the sake of the recording for the meeting minutes. Danica Navagorda.
Danica was planning to be on water.
Yeah, she would be on the,
And we'll put her on it. Get to those in a minute then. All right. Ben Spalding.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Okay. It keeps blinking out. Then as soon as it blinks out, it goes terribly there. Not, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
It's not,
You still get your 3 minutes.
yeah. It's not part of your.
I was thinking of it.
Doing a fine job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Smart last time, say oops this time.
That's the key. I'm sorry, it's just like water. That's a. Large.
Yeah, that's all.
Slowly, why it's going.
Apologies. We're trying to make sure that everyone here can see the 2 board members that are on virtual.
Fun fact, that's required by Kentucky law, right, for open meetings, so please bear with us.
Can't get some real computer up down here. Other than just plugging and unplugging cords and cables, that's the extent of my expertise here.
Do you want me to run that real quick too?
I've just messaged Andy.
So.
I have to just do. Yes, on his way down.
Anyone needs, and I'm sorry we didn't announce this at the beginning, the restrooms are outside here, and they are going to be to your left, and there's a water fountain there as well.
To your right, if you're walking. Left if you're sitting at the table here.
So sorry.
Next door. Yeah. Wait for him.
Get out of it.
Yeah, and that's what Black's out.
You can have a seat if you want, and then get back up.
Okay.
There we go.
We'll wait for our speaker to come back. I want to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's why it's doing that. So, it just now came back on. Listen to it without touching it. Using the blanket. It's blanket. When it does that, it goes there.
In response to noises, so maybe it was. Interesting. Okay.
He's not got that in different way. It's just it's black. It's too late.
You're on. You got it.
It just.
What's your name?
Well, hold on.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just put on like it's a.
That's what I got started doing.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna be very gentle. Okay. Apologies for the disruption on, I think we've got a loose connection and we're just gonna not look at it funny for the rest of the meeting, all right? Nobody look at it funny. All right, Mr. Chairman, we're ready to.
Thank you.
My name is Benjamin Spalding, and I am very against this power plant from getting built for two main reasons. Most of them have already been stated. Again, the pollution and everything is very, very harmful for the community that they will be built in. And I'll kind of get into the whole community part of it in just a second. But the main kind of like thing that I want to touch on real quick is that we made a promise to have clean energy community-wide 100% by 2040. And by building this fossil fuel powered plant, that will be impossible. Like just straight up not something that can be done. Like just, it can't happen. And then to go back to the communities thing is that I don't know where this is going to be built exactly, like in Louisville, but I do have a couple of guesses where it's not going to be built. And that's in like the Anchorage, Prospect, the Stony Brook area. And it feels like we're not building there. And by building outside of there, we're targeting low income, working class areas. And they are the people who often see most of the power plants, the chemical manufacturing. And as a result, they're the people who suffer the most from the pollution and all of the chemical runoff and the air pollution. And so I think just to not compound onto that, I think that it's just a bad idea to be built. And then if it does get built, which I don't want, it needs to have some kind of emissions regulation. Like I need to see a lime green Honda Fit with an energy bumper sticker every single day. like, just so there's some kind of energy emissions control happening there. That's what again, I don't want it to be built. But if it does get built, which I don't want, I want it, and there needs to be emissions control on site, pretty much. That's all I'm gonna talk about, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Roger Ullman?
Well, thank you all for listening to me. My name is Roger Ullman with Central Louisville. I want to speak to, I guess, the credibility of Roxanne Elwood talked about. When operating these gas turbines and with this amendment, and the infrastructure around it and the monitoring, as we can see, things go wrong. Sometimes with, technology and communications, things go wrong. And I'm very concerned about that concerned about the fossil fuels and the emissions in the first place, but also concerned when things go wrong, how does LG handle this? And I don't think they have had a good track record in a lot of ways. And I want to talk to them specifically about the gas storage that don't run that Roxanne has alluded to. There are two gas storage facilities out in the south end, or just south of Jefferson County. One is the Muldrow, and one is the Doe Run. And both of these were in the early 1900s, discovered in the 1800s as reservoirs. And in 46, they were converted to gas storage. So LG didn't store gas there, still does store gas at Muldrow. They have to shut down Doe Run storage because it's leaking. They're losing gas. And since Doe Run's developed in 46, there have been immeasurable gas losses from the field. New Albany shale cap has natural fractures that allow gas to migrate laterally out of the storage formation. Annual gas losses prior to 2004 averaged 155 million cubic feet. And in recent years, that's increased from 295 to now 500 million cubic feet of gas. And so now LG just this year has been saying, okay, we need to close this plant, but not because they're concerned about these emissions. It's been leaking like this. It's because it's a cost issue for them. They're pumping gas in there and they're losing that gas. So they're concerned about that. So this, to me, speaks to the credibility of how well they manage it and how well, when things go wrong, how well they can manage it in the future.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Wallace McMullen?
Good morning, I'm Wallace McMullen. I live at 4312 Dover Road, Louisville. I'm speaking on behalf of Renewable Energy Alliance for Louisville Real. And I'm speaking in opposition to the proposed board order and site-specific, recently available control technology plan for LG Mill Creek generating station. Louisville Metro government has made it clear that it wants to move away from burning fossil fuels, especially for electricity generation, and I urge this board to act accordingly. The proposed Knox Rack Plan board order creates legal approval for a large new fossil fuel burning infrastructure facility, which is in opposition to policies of ending greenhouse gas emissions enacted by the Louisville government, Metro government. The new natural gas fired unit is contrary to city policy stated in Metro Council Resolution R 102-19 and the mayor's following executive order of 2006. Briefly quoting from the Metro Council's resolution, whereas there's no credible path to a safe climate that includes continued long-burn combustion of fossil fuels and proliferation of new fossil fuel infrastructure, Metro Council supports 100% clean renewable electricity goal for Metro government operations by 2030, 100% clean energy goal for Metro government operations by 2035, and 100% clean energy goal for the community-wide by 2040. Passed on February 6th of 2020. And then the mayor did a following executive order, which trying to summarize, whereas Louisville commits to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions community-wide by 2040 in accordance with these science-based targets, I, as mayor, declare the establishment of greenhouse gas reduction targets group and direct all metro government agencies and departments to identify necessary investments and policy changes to enable the achievement of science-based greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets. So building the proposed new gas-fired units contrary to city policy will be a large source of greenhouse gas emissions, lasting far past this goal of net zero by 2040. The Louisville APCD is an agency functioning here in Jefferson County and should act in policies consistent with the policies of Louisville Metro government. I therefore urge the ACP board not to take the permitting actions today and defer any future approvals of fossil fuel infrastructure. Jefferson County needs to be powered by clean renewable energy generation sources, and you, ABCD board members, have the power to help make this happen. In conclusion, we all experience the degradation of our air quality, LG emissions, and these effects do hit the poor, the powerless, and the red line communities.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up.
And so I urge this board to take the public interest action and reject all permits for new fossil fuel generation.
Thank you for your comments.
Sam Avery.
Hi, I'm Sam Avery with the Renewable Energy Alliance of Louisville and with the KIPC. And I thank you very much, Air Pollution Control Board, for holding this hearing. And I also want to thank LG&E for aspiring to take some new initiatives in the direction of utility scale solar installations. That's the direction we need to be taking. We as individuals do not have much choice as far as our contribution to the transition to renewable energy. You know, when we want to refrigerate our food, or turn on the lights at night, or turn up the thermostat in wintertime, we plug into that wall outlet and we have to take whatever comes out of it. We don't get to choose whether that's renewable energy or fossil fuel energy. We don't have any choice, except for right now. We're sitting here right now choosing whatever kind of infrastructure we're going to be dependent upon for the next 40 or 50 years. That's what's happening in this room today. Now is the time when we do have a choice. Infrastructure is dependence. Once we choose an infrastructure, we're stuck with it. We have to use it. So what we decide here today, either we go in the direction of what we already know, which is fossil fuel, that's the easy way, or we go in the direction of renewable energy. Now, when I was born, just a few years ago, middle of the last century, there was 5 billion tons of man-made carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere. Today, the air we're breathing right now has 35 billion tons of carbon dioxide, man-made carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, 7 times as much in my lifetime. Now, if you look around the room, or look around the town, people you know, talk to the young people, the people who are just now coming of age. What do they want us to do? Which choice do they want us to make? And once we make that choice this way, fossil fuel, we can't undo that for another 40 or 50 years. So as you've already heard, this city has already decided it wants to be 100% renewable energy for the entire community by 2040. This fossil fuel power plant that LG&E is applying for now will be in operation apparently until 2064. That's 24 years after the city has already decided it wants to be fossil fuel free. So I'm hoping very much that we won't go in this direction, go this way. Instead, it's harder, it's more difficult, but we have to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Margaret Stewart.
My voice, sorry. I'll do the best I can. I'm Margaret Stewart. I'm here to say, today is the day we choose our future. And I didn't plan this with Sam, I promise. But today is the day we will make the choice to be part of a solution, or that we will continue to contribute to being part of a problem. The issue before us is the gas-fired, methane gas-fired power plant, which may burn cleaner than coal, but that does not mean it is clean. It will still pose significant discharges of air pollution, and I want to focus especially on the NOx, the nitrogen oxide, which will be produced by this plant in addition to other discharges, including carbon and sulfur dioxide and so forth. But the nitrogen oxygen discharges can combine with other elements in the air in the presence of sunlight and cause respiratory problems and even heart problems and heart attacks, things like that, asthma, bronchitis, all those kinds of diseases that we hear about. I've recently read also, and this was very disturbing, that new studies have shown there's a very possible connection between air pollution and dementia, which we seem to be seeing more of. So keep that in mind too. Keep open to these studies that are coming out. So I'm here to say, tell you to say no to nitrogen oxygen discharges. By saying no, we'll be saying yes to a healthier future for our people, for the planet. And I want to say you're the Air Pollution Control Board, but that could also be the Atmosphere Control Board. It's bigger than just the local air. It's the air of the world, the atmosphere of the world. We need to do unto our mother, as we would have mother do unto us. The greenhouse gases we discharge into the atmosphere come back unto us to harm us and all the creatures that are dependent on a healthy atmosphere for this world. So this new proposed greenhouse gas facility is not doing unto our mother as we would have our mother do unto us. So I'm here to say, let's make a good choice. Today is the day we can have some control over our future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
We have one registered speaker online. I'll ask Andy Burden to promote that speaker to be able to make the comments. Danica Novgorod.
Oh, can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Danica Novgorodov. I'm a Louisville resident in the 40205 neighborhood. Thank you for allowing me to join virtually. I strongly urge the Air Pollution Control District to deny LG&E the permits to build new gas power plants. Louisville already struggles with complying with the federal standards for air quality, and the air quality here has been getting worse in the past several years. Fossil fuel plants will only worsen the air quality, both in the short term with the emissions that burning more fossil gas will cause, and in the long term, because burning fossil fuels very quickly is making our planet warmer, and atmospheric warming associated with climate change increases ground level ozone and the particulate matter in the air, which will make Louisville's air quality significantly worse. As we know, that will cause many more premature deaths in our community due to lung diseases and asthma attacks. And there is currently no proven technology that will reverse or ameliorate the effects of new gas power plants. Building gas power plants will put a significant amount of new greenhouse gases in the air, and there are no carbon capture technologies that currently exist that will fix that. If LG&E claims that there's going to be a technological fix to their irresponsible development, they are frankly gambling with our future. The way to fix greenhouse gases and to improve the air quality to prevent catastrophic climate change is to not burn fossil fuels. Building new gas power plants would commit us to 40 more years of pollution, 40 years of exacerbating the climate crisis, and 40 years down the wrong path. The answer is not to build new fossil fuel infrastructure, but instead to invest in solar projects right now, to expand energy efficiency, to increase rooftop solar programs and energy storage. And LG&E has the chance to be a leader in improving our community's air quality, residents' health, and to avoid this very expensive mistake that customers will have to pay for 40 years. LG&E needs to be, thank you. LG&E needs to be responsible to our community, and in building new gas plants, they would be ignoring the health of our planet, our community's health, our economic well-being, my children's future. So I urge you to deny the permit to build new gas plants. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
That's it with the registered speakers to speak.
Okay. Are there any members of the public in the Edison room?
Sorry, there was one more.
Okay.
Before we get to that. The provided written comments.
Provide written comments? Has anyone provided written comments?
Yes,
Okay.
two individuals provided written comments for us to read aloud.
Okay.
First, Kevin Roush submitted 3 comments to be read aloud at the meeting on November 4th. He submitted comments to please remember to vote. November 15th, he submitted, I support the plan, and also a second comment, I support the project. Also received this morning a written comment from Duffy Oakley. And I'll try to do this after I read it. As a young person, it is a complete slap in the face to me, to my generation, and to the generations to come that we continue to build new fossil fuel infrastructure that is robbing us of our future. Despite Louisville Metro's sustainability pledge to reach 100% clean energy by 2040, the city continues to invest in and greenlight the very projects that make reaching that goal literally impossible, while actively underfunding and understaffing the programs we need to make it reality. This proposed gas plants will lock us into decades of more dirty fossil fuel combustion, paid for in human costs, not by the decision makers at LG&E or this board today, but by young people, especially young people of color in impoverished communities in the west and south ends who are already bearing the brunt of air pollution. Is yet another step in the long path of environmental injustice that the city has tread for decades. The time to stop being in the environmental degradation and pollution promotion business was long ago. We and any board that can seriously call itself the Air Pollution Control Board must now move forward with sustainability and equity as the pillars of our vision for a community with clean air, clean water, and justice for all the residents of this city to live, learn, grow, and thrive together. That's the end of the submitted comments.
So we had 3 submitted written comments that were submitted, 3 or 4.
We had 4 comments from 2 submitters.
Okay.
One submitter had 3 separate comments.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. Are there any members of the public in the Edison room that wish to make a comment? If so, please raise your hand. Please approach the podium and state your name. As a reminder, comments should be kept to no more than 3 minutes. Seeing no hands in the Addison room, okay. Are there any members of the public that wish to make a brief comment on the video teleconference? If so, please raise your hand by video teleconference and you will be called upon. This is a feature you can find on your participant list or by pressing *3 if you're joining by phone, and you will be called upon. But give
I see
everybody,
no raised hands, Chairman Holden.
thank you. Ms. King, does anyone wish to speak?
See no raised hands.
Okay, no raised hands? Okay. This completes the public portion of the meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for your participation and your comments. And now we're going to unfinished business. And the first thing on the unfinished business is the amended board order involving VOC Knox Rack Plan by LG&E Mill Creek Generating Station. I'd like to note that the public comment period for this amended board order ended on October the 16th, 2023. Also, a public hearing on this amended board order was held last month, October 18th, 2023, because there was a minimum number of board members in attendance at the October board meeting to constitute a quorum. This matter was tabled into the board meeting for the full board to consider today. To allow the full board the benefit of background information on this amended board order, I would like Mrs. King to again present the amended board order involving the Knox Rack Plan for LG&E Mill Creek Generating Station, followed by a presentation from Mrs. Hampton regarding the district regulation that governs the process for this amended board order.
Mr. King, what do you see?
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Hilton. LG&E has applied to construct a natural gas combined cycle electric generating unit at its Mill Creek Generating Station in southwest Jefferson County. Projects includes the retirement of 2 coal-fired generating units 1 and 2 at the facility. The proposed project will result in significant improvements to the emission profile of the facility, including a 4,000 ton per year reduction of NOx, a 1,000 ton per year reduction of sulfur dioxide, 200 ton per year reduction in fine particulate, and an 800,000 ton reduction in CO2. The NOx reduction is of particular importance as ozone in Louisville is most affected by NOx. We are currently non-attainment for ozone, and these reductions will be important to gaining attainment. VOC is the other precursor of ozone. This project protects a slight increase of about 11 tons in VOC. A draft permit for the entire project will be made available for public comment in the near future. The matter before the board today is the VOC NOx racked plan. It's required by District Regulation 642 for any major source of VOC or NOx to apply reasonably available control technology. This board order contains the previous plan for the existing units that will remain in service, units 3 and 4, and sets new conditions for the proposed emission units. The NOx rack portion for the new unit, unit 5, is a limit of 15 parts per million on a 30-day rolling average, which is the federal new source performance standard for this type of gas turbine. It is also the rack that was set for the Cane Run plant that LG&E operates in the city as well. That project was conducted about 8 years ago. Selective catalytic reduction, you'll hear us call that SCR, will be utilized on the turbine. Compliance will be verified with a continuous emission monitor. There are a support boiler and pre-gas heaters that will have a limit of 0.04 pounds per million BTU and utilize low NOx burners. For perspective, those limits are roughly 1 order of magnitude less than the previous racks set in the early 2000s. The VOC rack for the new unit is a VOC limit of 2 parts per million and a formaldehyde limit of 91 parts per billion. An oxidation catalyst will be utilized and testing will be conducted to determine compliance. After 2 annual tests showing compliance, testing would be required every 2 years. The support boiler and fuel gas heater will be required to utilize good combustion and operating practices to reduce VOC. And that involves inspections and cleanings of the system, as well as maintaining optimal fuel to air ratios for complete combustion. Comments were received both during the written comment period and at last month's public hearing. The district prepared responses to those comments, provided them to the board for their consideration. And the district recommends the board adopt this agreement as drafted.
Mrs. Hampton?
Very briefly, if Mr. Purdy will advance the slide. I simply want to note that the district is a creature of statute. We are governed as a regulatory agency by the regulations on our books. In Regulation 642 for NOx rack requires a proposal of possible rack available for this type of source, and then an evaluation by the district of the elements that are provided in the regulation. Mr. King has walked through this morning his assessment and his team's assessment of the criteria set forth in that regulation. Once approved, abstract plans are included in our state implementation plan that makes this case-by-case determination by the district federally enforceable. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. King, for the summary regarding this proposal. The district has recommended that the board adopt the amended board order involving the NOx VOC rack plan for LG&E Mill Creek Generating Station. Is there a motion from the board members to adopt the amended board order with LG&E?
So.
Okay, is it a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any questions or discussion, board members, regarding the proposed amended board order with LG&E? Okay, I will take a roll call vote. For those attending by video conference, when called upon, please unmute your mic and say yes if you wish to adopt the amended board order with LG&E, and no if you do not. Steve Sullivan.
Yes.
Dr. Colbert.
Yes.
Dr. May. Okay, Candace White.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Marissa Neal.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Daniel Garst.
Yes.
Thank you. So the board has, and myself, I vote yes. So the amended board order involving the NOx rack plan with LG&E Mill Creek Generation Station was approved and has been adopted. New business, there's no new business. Committee reports, no committee met in the last month. Mrs. Hamilton, we have the director's report.
Thank you very much, Chairman Hilton. And thank you to all who commented this morning. On November 9th, US EPA issued final updates to its implementing regulations under Section 111D of the Clean Air Act, which were proposed back in December 2022. They set timelines and other requirements for state plans to limit pollution from existing sources under Section 111 that are covered by specific emission guidelines. These emission guidelines do not impose requirements directly on sources. Instead, they establish a framework for states to develop plans that establish, implement, and enforce standards of performance for existing sources. And I know we've got a lot on our agenda today, so I'm going to keep this brief. This regulation is a necessary first step. On its own, it's very dry, so I'm going to put this out as a teaser. We'll talk more about these final implementing regulations, which will require meaningful engagement. When EPA finalizes the emission guidelines that were proposed in May 2023 that set carbon dioxide limits for new gas-fired combustion turbines, existing coal, oil, and gas-fired generating units, and certain existing gas-fired combustion turbines. If finalized, EPA projects that these emission guidelines will cut 617 million metric tons of CO2 through 2042, as well as tens of thousands of tons of criteria pollutants, including fine particulates, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxides. Between 2024 and 2042, projected net climate and health benefits from these emission reductions range from 64 billion to 85 billion and have an annual net benefit that ranges from 5.4 billion to 5.9 billion. So as you can see, EPA is progressing towards their regulations that will cover greenhouse gases. In the meantime, these same regulations will have a marked improvement in reducing criteria pollutants. Very important for our area. As you know, the Clean Air Act is a continuous improvement plan for criteria pollutants. Every 5 years, EPA is required to go back and look at the health-based science for particulate matter and sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, and strengthen those standards if needed to be protective of human health and the environment. We're currently waiting for a final, likely strengthened particulate matter standard. Our understanding is we should see that sometime between now and the end of the year. So these reductions, in addition to reducing greenhouse gases, will assist us in that criteria work as it continues. Are there any questions?
No.
I'm extraordinarily pleased to report this morning that the Air Pollution Control District and some community partners have received a $1 million grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. In addition to our partners, which include the West Jefferson County Community Task Force, the Christina Lee Brown Enviro Institute at the University of Louisville, Louisville Metro Public Health and Wellness, and Park Devon Community Health Centers, we're going to be working through a government-to-government EJ G2G grant focusing on ambient air toxics and health action for the Rubbertown area. This is a project that will examine and address air pollution inequities experienced by residents in West Louisville, with a focus on the areas surrounding the Rubbertown Industrial Complex. This is a 3-year project. During this time, partners will conduct an air pollution monitoring study. It's going to be very similar to what was conducted during the initial West Louisville air toxic study that gave rise to our strategic toxic air reduction program. But our partner, Enviro Institute, will be conducting a pilot test on a novel approach to exposure monitoring through wastewater sampling. Results of the study will be used to develop and support policy recommendation for air pollution and land use regulation and policies to reduce exposure. There'll also be work by Park Devon and the Enviro Institute to help medical practitioners improve early detection and treatment options. We expect to see this work, which Michelle King, our Assistant Director, Bill DeWitt, our Air Monitoring Program Manager, have already begun working to really kick off in earnest first of the year. West Jefferson will lead that work with community engagement, and then we'll hope to begin our own air monitoring work in the second quarter. This is really a tremendous opportunity for us to work together with the Park Devon Community Health Centers, Enviro, and West Jefferson. It's also a tremendous opportunity for the district to demonstrate and build on our progress made by the STAR program. There have been a number of other efforts throughout our community in terms of reducing pollution. And after 20 years of implementing STAR, it'll be good to take another apples to apples look. So again, I want to be sure that the board and the public understand that we will be sharing this work as we proceed through the next 3 years. And I'm grateful to Ms. King and Mr. DeWitt for their leadership on behalf of the district. Are there any questions?
Who's the lead?
We are. All right. Brings me to MSD.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we have continued to experience a high number of sewer odor reports within the community. Since August 1st, we've received more than 2,000 reports. Recently, I was asked to appear before Metro Council's Parks and Sustainability Committee for a special discussion about the district's oversight of odors from MSD and other sources. Later that same day, the district attended the District 5 Town Hall with Steve Brivette, APCD's Industrial Engineering Enforcement Compliance Manager, where I spoke on odor issues in the District 5 area and the district's work with MSD to reduce these odors. Several community members shared their concerns about how these odors impact their enjoyment of their homes and community, and many expressed concerns about potential health impacts from sewers and other odors. On Monday, Tony Parrott, MSD's executive director, and I participated in a press meeting with District 1 Councilwoman Tammy Hawkins to discuss our respective work to reduce odors from Morris Foreman and the combined collection system. From APCD's perspective, the sewer odors, particularly those west of 9th Street and downtown, are the result of inherited infrastructure. MSD has a system that's over 100 years old. It has had disinvestment in odor control measures. It has low flow due to conservation measures that we employ in our homes today. And then there's climate change, where we've seen a switch from how we receive the same amount of rainfall on a year-to-year basis. And that is, we're seeing larger rainfall, but fewer of those. Through this board's leadership, MSD completed an evaluation of sources and potential odors from the Morris Foreman and the combined collection system in December of last year. This work, which is detailed in the Morris Foreman Water Quality Treatment Center Odor Control Master Plan Final Report, and a series of technical memoranda, include recommendations for a number of mitigation strategies to reduce odors. Developing the plan required under the agreed board order is step 1. Step 2 is implementing the plan. Make no mistake, implementing these recommendations will take time and cost money. Some of these recommendations are included in MSD's critical infrastructure plan. It's a 20-year plan they published in 2017, and it spans more than 2,000 pages. And this is work that MSD is already undertaking. But candidly, neither the critical infrastructure plan nor MSD's monthly board packets, which generally span more than 100 pages, are substitutes for clear, meaningful communication of MSD's work and progress in reducing odors, particularly west of 9th Street. Not all of the work that MSD will need to do to reduce odors are included in its critical infrastructure plan, but they are complementary. Relying on rainfall isn't a suitable substitute either. So I believe that it's critical now for MSD to provide details, including short, mid, and long-term project goals on when and how odor control recommendations will be implemented and how progress will be measured so that that can be shared with the community, the mayor's office, and Metro Council. Similarly, they need to provide a proactive plan to address odors once we begin to have more rain this fall, in anticipation of drier weather, which we know will come next year. The district will work with MSD on this next step so that the work going forward is easier for the community to track, provides additional transparency and accountability. Today, MSD will be providing an update on its work to reduce odors from its operations. Mr. Bingham?
Good morning, I'm Brian Bingham, Chief Operations Officer at MSD. There are a lot of slides, I'm going to go quickly. I have to ask for the slide. Next slide, please. So, like I said, there's a lot of slides here. There's 40-some slides. Some of them I'm going to go over very quickly. This is a presentation that Tony Parrott developed and used in a recent meeting. I wanted all this information to be delivered to you all. I will answer questions about any of it, but I'm not going to go into the detail of it, just out of respect for your time. but I will be happy to answer questions and stay here as long as you want, or come back another day and do more. Mr. Parrott is out of town, so he could not be available, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the common odor sources, the efforts that we're making and the plan moving forward, recent complaints. So we do have, as Director Hamilton said, we do have significantly more complaints this summer than we've ever had. That's a combination of a number of things, and I'll talk about those in a little detail, but it's not necessarily a function of that the odors are that much worse. It's that the methods of getting information are easier. There's some other things that are there, but there are some areas with very severe issues. So anything I say, let me qualify by making this statement. Hydrogen sulfide, sewer odors, if you will. I'm going to try to use less technical terms so that anyone watching can get this, but if we want to get into the more technical stuff, we're happy to do that. That's a natural byproduct of the system. It's something I'll talk about, what influences it, what we have done, what we can do. It is a serious issue. It's something we take very serious. I can assure you, I have more conversations in any week on this issue than any other issue that we have going on. We have a lot of issues in this city, but it's meant to be very serious. Take it very serious. Some of the answers, there's some fast things we can do. So there's some midterm, and some are just going to take a while. And I'll go through and explain that. The Clarity Program is the program that we developed as part of working under the board order from you all a few years ago. We're still under. We have made some changes in our operational setup. With the things that we've been asked repeatedly of what are you doing different? And you need to stop doing it differently. You need to go back to what you're doing. I promise you, we've stopped doing nothing. We do more of everything right now. The one thing that we did do that I think has made a substantial change, we didn't previously, before a little bit last year, but this year completely, we're 7 days a week. So we did not have as many complaints on the weekends, so we didn't staff it. We staff it now. Then we'll talk about the overall format after my next slide, please. I guess, so I'll probably spend more time on that slide than any other. Causes, let's just say this, human waste, time, temperature, distance creates hydrogen sulfide. When the degradation process starts, that is one of the byproducts of release. I can talk about, we'll talk about the catch basins are one of the biggest issues, and I've got some slides on those in a minute, but we also have issues at some of our treatment facilities. We have pump stations and force mains, and especially some of those that have long travel times can be an issue. Dry weather is a huge issue to it, and we don't just have this in the combined system, and we'll talk about the combined system a lot, but we do have probably 10 to 15% of our complaints are in the separate sanitary system. So it's not something that is just in the combined, but it is predominantly in the combined system. To mention west of 9th, that is where a lot of it is, but that's not where all of it. We certainly have some other issues. Residents in Old Louisville and Beachmont and Taylorberry and some of the other areas are certainly priority to us as well. Next slide, please. The shaded area is the combined sewer area. We generally say within the water express area within 264 the west of the river. Just wanted to use that as a setup basis. Next slide, please. Next slide. Go ahead and get into the individual slides. You can see July, we had 77, 225 in August, 642 in September. October ended up being 590. I haven't checked the actual number through the last couple of days, but we're over 150 and probably getting close to 200 now so far for November. Next slide, please. So, and those are big numbers. Those are numbers that are bigger than some of the years that we had in the past. Does that mean our system has gotten worse? Well, no, not necessarily. It means two things. One, we had an actual campaign to ask people to speak or to come to us, call us, get us information. But there also are technologies which make it easier for people to send information to us. So, for example, the Smell My City app. And I will make this statement about the Smell My City app. We like it in the fact that it gets us information from people we wouldn't get otherwise. We get frustrated by it because it doesn't get us the information we need from them a lot of times. So I was in a meeting recently and someone came up to me and said, you know, you all never contacted me to talk about this issue. So I started getting some information. I'm like, well, how often have you called? Well, I've never called you. I go through the Smell My City app. Well, you put your name and number? No. But how are we going to contact you? We're happy to talk with anyone who wants to talk with us, but we have to have the information. So it is a wonderful tool, but it's also a tool that may set some expectations. And I will say this, the Smell My City app, folks, we are working with the developers directly on some of the things. So they have been very willing to work with us. I think that's very positive. We also can get things in through our website, or we have one that answers the phone 24/7, 365. But some of the big things we do, we do go out, and it's a reactive thing mostly, the flush and deodorize catch basins. And I say mostly because we go out as part of other regulatory requirements and operating our system. We'll go out and clean every catch basin out on a regular schedule. That schedule is like once every 15 months. If it becomes an issue, somebody calls it in for any reason, we go out and do it more frequently. When they call odors in, that's one of the most likely things that's an issue, is that we've had the trap dry out. So remember, most of our catch basins, we've got 24,000 or so of them in the combined system. Most of them have essentially what would be like P-trap. And if you look down in them, if you see water in them, that means they're trapped. If you don't see water in them, it either means they're not trapped, or the trap's out of water, dried up, or the trap's cracked and it's leaking water. So one of the first things we normally do when we get a call is we'll go out and flush, basically clean, flush, and deodorize the catch basins. We go out in some areas, we are seeing more of the problems in the smaller lines in the upper areas. So we'll go out and we'll flush the sewer lines. We have a lot of, so the P-trap effect, there's actually a plug in there. Sometimes those plugs from big storms or other issues will get knocked out. We'll go and replace those. We'll help things out. We've got the Louisville Water Company working with us, helping us by going out and doing work they normally do, which is they flush their hydrants out every so often to keep that water fresh in there and not let anything bad happen. They have allowed us to work with them to ask them to go in certain neighborhoods at certain times of the year so that it can be beneficial as well. We do use chemical feeds and oxygen feeds at some pump stations and treatment facilities. We did have an issue this week at the Derrick Guthrie facility. We've got a major project I think we're going to do out there to upgrade that odor control system. It's one that had been working pretty well, and it appears that the media has reached its useful life, so we're going to have to go in and replace that media. It's say major, it's mid-major. And then adding water to the trapped catch basins. When I say it's mostly reactive, one of the issues is we know that we've got certain areas, okay, we've been to this catch basin 7 times this year or whatever. So there's an issue there. We've actually gone out and hired a few contractors and have them out with water trucks, just dumping water in the curb line of the street to put water into those traps. Next slide, please. Go next slide, please. That slide just shows the difference in the amount of rainfall from a 2-inch storm and what the Louisville Water Company sells on a normal day. The point to that and the point to this, put them together. If you go back 50 years and look at our population, and the red line on there is the population line. Population has more than doubled in 50 years, and those blue lines are the amount of water purchased by all the residential customers in the Louisville Water Company. So basically, same amount of water, twice as many people. What that really means is that everybody is using half as much water on average. What that means is that the design criteria and the way systems were built, designed in the 1800s and built through the early 1900s as well, were based on a water usage that is not what we're getting today. It's also based on rainfall, which we're not seeing today, the climate change, the rain patterns. And I can say, for example, it usually takes about 1 inch of rain to really get a good flush of the combined sewer system. The last time we had that was July 8th. That's 130 days ago. So it has not been a good summer from a weather perspective for the sewer system, which has created issues for customers and that we're trying to mitigate. Director Hamilton mentioned that there are changes, but that there has to be something done. We absolutely agree. We have talked to a number of communities around the country. Most are experiencing this in some way, shape, or form. None of them are doing anything we're not doing that we've found yet. We're going to continue that, but we're also bringing together some local, regional, and national resources to look at some other things to see if we can come up with some other ideas. One of the ideas that has been floated out numerous times recently is, well, can't you take, we've got a big river full of water, can't you take and do that? We could. Theoretically, it would probably be between 10 and 100 times as expensive as any other fence. Because you would have to build basically a whole water line, water delivery system to bring it up. So remember, there are 24,000 catch basins. We would want to maybe not put it in 24,000 locations, but probably thousands of locations. One of the things that's easier to do is to actually purchase water from the local water company, which we do to some degree. There are limitations, what we're allowed to do from EPA. We know that we could likely get some exemptions to that. We haven't found a way to get the water in that would make a big enough difference to ask for those yet. So right now, what we are doing is well within what we're allowed to do. We're putting additional water in those traps. We're flushing and cleaning those traps or those catch basins. We're flushing and cleaning lines, which we're allowed to do. We are also taking and doing additional cleaning of the large storage basins that we built as part of our consent decree. So for example, the Shawnee Basin, Clifton Basin, Portland Basin, and several others. And we will put several million gallons of Louisville water in those, clean them good, and then flush that out. So there are ways that we can do that. It's not violating our permits. It is working within that. I can tell you that for the cost, it's probably not done very well, but it's something we had to try to see if it's actually going to work. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through these next few slides pretty quickly, but this slide shows the neighborhoods that we're doing catch basin work in right now. And by that, we're either doing active construction or we're doing the planning efforts. Next slide, please. California neighborhood. There's a few things. So we've broken some of these into phases. Some of them are to be able to get things out and get them under construction more quickly. Some of them are due to budgetary concerns or budgetary reasons where we have to go in and we have this much money available, let's do what we can. And then next year we'll come back to the other. You can see that it's phase one. That's, like almost $17,000 per catch basin. And mentioned earlier, there are 24,000 catch basins. Between up to 10% of those are untrapped, or they're traps worked. So we've got a couple of thousand catch basins that need attention. We're working on those. Some of those are broken down into smaller projects like this. 15 catch basins, the first one, the 40 in the second one, and then we've got some work in the Maple Street area where the Alberta Jones Park is going to be. We're going to do some work in there as well. The Chickasaw neighborhood, we're doing the inspection and we're putting the projects together. Next slide, please. Park Duval, we've completed phase one. Phase two is under construction right now. It will be a little bit different because it will have 6 catch basins in it, but it will also have about a dozen odor control devices for the vented lids. So one of the big questions that people ask is, okay, if this is an issue, why don't you just seal all the openings in the sewer system? The problem with the combined sewer system is that it was constructed for both stormwater and wastewater. And when we do get those big rains, even as infrequent as they may be, if you over tighten the system, and some of our predecessors have done this in the past, and give you specific examples of that on East Broadway, on Taylor Boulevard, and I could probably come up with some others, but those are 2 I remember very well, where they over tightened the system, they got rid of all the vented manhole lids, they did everything, you got the first big rain, and it literally in public streets threw manhole lids 4 feet in the air and track. So the last thing we want to do is do something that is more dangerous than what we have. So what we're doing, we have to have the vented areas in there. We can close off all the catch basins, that's not a problem. But we have to have some vents, especially in the lids. What we're looking at is there a way to have vents that have less area of opening? But more importantly, is there a way to filter what's coming through those vents? And that's what these 12 devices are. We piloted a few of these earlier this year. They seem to work well. We've used them occasionally in the past. We're going to use them on a larger scale now. There are some other devices that we're using on the untrapped catch basins that we can go in and maybe do some preemptive work of closing off part of the air coming out of them until we get those constructed. Next slide, please. Tableberry, Park Hill, Shawnee, we're still putting together the projects on those. The next, actually, if you can just slowly go through to the map that shows 4, but if, pay attention to where the yellow is there, say next one, that's next one, then next one, please. And then, so that shows all of them together. What this is over, I'm sorry, go back to me, please. What that shows on the one with 4 is, if you look at those, you see the specific areas, those are concentrations. So that scale works from, if you see blue on there, it means that there have been some complaints up through purple to red, and yellow is the most intense. So if you see the center of those red circles are yellow, that's the most intense location. So all of those in Park Duval are believed to be corrected with this phase 2 work, but we'll see the proof will be when it actually gets done. Next slide, please. And if you could do the same thing with these, and if you all can just kind of look at them, go to the one that has 4 on it. Freeze there. So, and you can't see it very well at this scale, but we have provided this presentation, so we can provide it to anybody else that wants it. But what it shows is we definitely have some hot spots. It doesn't mean all the other ones aren't important. And what we're doing is most of this work's going to go through by neighborhoods, but we're also looking at, okay, can we do something sooner for the worst areas to try to make sure we just knock this down? Remember, the work we're doing with the catch basin is not stopping odors from existing. It's stopping odors from escaping the system. The odors are still in the system. There are other things that we're doing, looking at the odors in the system, but a lot of those require a lot of chemicals, and on the scale of far and wide as this is, they don't work very well. They work best on the pump stations, major lines. We actually did a trial a couple of years ago where we dripped a disinfectant into one of the bigger interceptors. It didn't have a noticeable thing. So we're trying different things that our peers have not tried, or at least that they've not documented. We're doing the things we know that work, but we keep trying new things. We'll report back on those. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So clarity program, and I'll talk about this. Next slide, please. We did public meetings. We're doing outreach. Actually, stop here for a second. El Toro, we're trying some targeted communication. So this was specifically aimed at the Park Duval neighborhood, and it's through basically a number, can't quite read them, but you see them down the side, a number of websites or things that people go to, and the ads pop up and the information, they click those. We're looking to refine that. We just started that earlier this summer. We're looking to expand how we use this information. What we have found is there is no one way that we can communicate with our customers. Some people might want to be on the internet. Other people definitely don't have any access to the internet. Paper works with some, social media with some. We're just trying as many different things as we can to develop the most critical outreach structure we can. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. What we found is that we're reaching them, but it's in a very small number. We're looking at their way to get those numbers to come up. I do want to spend a couple minutes, and I'm about to wrap up here. Ongoing work at Morris Foreman, because Morris Foreman is always a discussion point. So I apologize for having acronyms on there. THP is thermal hydrolysis project. It is a $250 million project that is for solids handling. One of the issues with odor, obviously, is solids, handling those. We have recently done some upgrades to our dryers there. So what we do is we take the solids, we dry them, we pelletize them. There is an additional process that we're going to take things through. It will have even more odor control associated with it. Sedimentation basins can be an issue. So that's where the initial place where you come in, the first basic parts of the plant, where you settle out. You go through screening, you take out the solids and roll from the big stuff and whatever you can catch, the wipes and the other things that won't break down. Then you go into solid and you settle out and you go to a waste activated sludge process in the sedimentation tanks, and then that goes through the process. So we're taking steps a number of places. Next slide, please. I think this is the other slides here. So we did go through, did an evaluation, a couple slides ahead of us. So we've determined what needs to be done. We're working that into the budget. Next slide, please. Okay, let me cut that down. So let me tell you what was going to be on there that I thought was on there. We have a couple of areas that I consider to be the most smelly of the process. One of them is the influent where it's coming in and going through the screens. We've done a lot there. We do have to cover some channels there. That's a plan to do that work. We have, when we get to the sedimentation basins, we're rebuilding those. Those were constructed in 58. They were updated in the mid-70s. They've had minor work done on them since then. We're told we're replacing all the mechanical parts. Everything associated with those will work much better. Going into dissolved air flotation thickening, and that's part of the process where it is the most smelly thing. It happens inside of a building. We're getting ready to redo that area. We're going to put complete odor control in that area. We'll keep things out of there. And then as part of the thermal hydrolysis, there's more than $10 million in odor control devices associated with that new process and with the existing facilities there, including improving the odor control from our digesters, which we use today, and that we're rehabilitating them. We're not adding any digesters. So I know digesters have been a big issue in the community in the past. We're not adding them, but we are certainly rehabilitating them and putting more odor control on them. The last thing I want to say, and I apologize, I know I'm intended, but we take this issue very seriously. We are putting together schedules and plans, working through the budgets to be able to have an implementation schedule. That's something that we will be bringing back to share with you all, working with Director Hamilton and her staff on that. It's something that we look forward to putting out to the community because there's no one single answer that's going to make this better, and there's no magic button that we can push. But we do continue to work on this, and some things will probably result in bigger benefits than others, but every one of them is crucial to get to a point where we minimize the impact of the public. And I would like to say there will be a day where we have no odors, but I've yet to see a system in the world that reacts that way. What I want it to be is people to say, what is that? I haven't smelled that forever, instead of the, again. So I am more than willing to answer any questions. I'm happy to come back anytime and talk to you all, and I do appreciate the working relationship we have with the staff here. And we do recognize that while we are both metro agencies, you all are our regulator, and that you all have a job to do, staff has a job to do. We recognize that. We want to acknowledge that we recognize that, and we're here to help work to make this better for you.
When do you think you'll be back with a plan that talks about schedules and budgets?
Let me get that. I don't have that answer yet. We're working on them. Let me get that and convey that back to Director Hamilton, bring it back to you.
But you have a sense that budgets will increase to address some of the catch basin issues?
So let me put it this way. And if this doesn't answer your question, please, yes. We have identified a lot of the costs and we know where they're at. And we actually had a plan 2017, I think it was, the community repair and reinvestment plan, where we went and asked for larger rate increases to be able to do work ahead of what we were planning. We essentially, after 2 years of trying, got told no. We went back and we renegotiated our federal overflow abatement consent decree to move some projects around. We added a lot in, but we also extended some timelines to free up some money that would allow us to do the other things the community needed. Flood protection, odor control, lots of the other things. We are now working through the budgets of how this all fits in. So we know what's there. Well, I think we've got a pretty good budget on all the projects. Now we're trying to see how we can fit that together in the budget to get as much done as quickly as possible. So, I know that a lot of these major efforts, some of them are going to take up to 5 years. The thermal hydrolysis project is a 5-year, $250 million project. The catch basin work, we had some scheduled out over the next several years. What we're trying to do is see if we can bring that back forward, backwards, whatever, bring it back sooner to be able to do those more rapidly than we were planning before. We've had 3 of our 5 driest late summer and falls recently. I'm just anticipating next year is going to be just as bad. So as much as I would like to plan for the normal year, I'm planning for the bad year. So I don't know that I've answered your question, but we're working on it, and I'm giving you the best answer I can at the moment. we will definitely have those schedules and budgets worked out in the next few months anyway.
So you'll be back.
But we're continuing to do work as we do that.
Any other-
I'm sorry, did that adequate?
Well, you'll be back.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back. We'll be back as often as you want to see us.
Well, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
The original consent decree was, I think it was 2005, and it's supposed to be completed by 2024.
That is correct.
What, you got 16 years, have you seen a bigger, you don't have to answer, because we want you to come back. Because I got another question I want to ask you. Back in 2006, MSD made a statement that 1/10 inch of a rain event would cause serious flooding. So when you come back, let me know, after 16 years, what it is now. Is it 2 inches or 3 inches?
So let me clarify what was said in 2006, because I may have actually even been the one that said it. It was likely either me or Bud Chardon, because I came to MSD in December of 2004.
Okay.
The position that I was in at that time was actually created in our federal consent decree. I was brought in to help finalize and implement the consent decree. And the 1/10 of an inch is what it took for our sewers to overflow into Beargrass Creek and the Ohio River.
Okay.
It was not flooding. So I can talk to you about flooding, but we don't have a whole lot of flooding issues usually until we get about 3 inches of rain.
Okay.
So it's different.
There
by
have been
area.
a lot of improvements then.
And there are some areas, the viaducts actually get water much quicker than that, some low-lying areas. If you have specific areas, I'd be more than happy to meet with you offline or in this meeting and talk about those, because we deal with those every day also.
Thank you for taking the time to come here and talk to us. But we look forward for you coming back again.
Thank you.
To follow up, and thank you, Mr. Booker. But just to follow up, Steve, in terms of making sure that that plan does get developed, the district has set internal meetings and part of that work will be undertaking that in several weeks. So we'll be looking at how we provide a framework so that this work can be provided transparently to the public, and so there is additional accountability.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. I know the meeting is running, but we just have a few more items to cover. First, the air quality report. Are there any comments or questions from board members regarding that?
So we're officially out of the ozone season now,
Yes. the
kind of.
Ozone season ended October 31st.
And is there any indication from the feds there's going to be some waiver considerations relative to fires and the like?
There always is an opportunity to pursue exceptional event demonstrations.
And that's initiated by the district.
That's correct.
A couple other reports, enforcement status report. Any questions, comments from board members? Excess emission event report. Any questions, comments from any board member? And the last one is the complaint investigation status summary. I would like to thank all the speakers for your comments this morning. Our next board meeting is Wednesday, December the 20th, and that is my last board meeting.
Chairman Hilton is correct. We will be seating 2 new board members. Dr. Garst is also going to be stepping off the board.
Yep.
So we're grateful for both of their service, and we'll look forward to seeing you in December.
Right.
There will likely be cookies for any.
So you do have 2 new ones,
We do.
Steve's
new
word.
victims.
Steve's word. Thank you so much. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I remember that.
Thanks so much. You were down there.
Go ahead.